I wanna hear your voice. You should say all of the things you wanna say. You can be her right here today. I wanna hear your voice. Be free and tell your story.
Goddess, you made it. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Goddesshood. We're not just a show, we're a collective. We believe that the healing of one contributes to the healing of all. On our show, you will hear stories and tips that will inspire you to live, love, laugh, and exist on freaking purpose. Let's live. I'm Thea, a podcast mentor dedicated to empowering women. At Goddesshood, we focus on helping women find and use their authentic voices through podcasting, fostering a deep connection with themselves and with other women. Today, I'm honored and privileged to introduce to you all Elyse. She is a top wealth mindset business coach who specializes in manifestation, money mindset, and personal branding for entrepreneurs. She takes a holistic approach to wealth, addressing not just finances, but also relationships, business success, and inner fulfillment. Yes. With her expertise, Elyse empowers new entrepreneurs to break through barriers and start generating income, ultimately achieving a life of freedom and purpose while making a positive impact on others. Her coaching philosophy emphasizes the interconnectedness of mindset, action, and results. Known for her raw vulnerability and willingness to tackle the uncomfortable topics, we're going to do some of that today, so that's good. Elyse inspires her clients to dream big and pursue their goals with confidence. She offers a range of services, including her signature Burning Pure program, a membership community, and group coaching sessions. Additionally, Elyse hosts the Burning Pure podcast, providing free resources and insights to aspiring entrepreneurs. As a transformational speaker, Elyse captivates audiences with her authentic approach and practical strategies for personal and professional growth. Her unique blend of mindset work, manifestation techniques, and business acumen has helped numerous clients transform their lives and achieve financial success. So welcome.
Why, thank you, my dear. Yeah, no, people are not ready for this episode, but that's okay. Like, I feel like that's always how my life ends up going, and I'm ready.
Yeah, we're about to just like fire it up, okay? Fire it up. Ole, ole, ole. Okay, sorry. That's my quick stuff. Okay. Y'all are liable to get whatever today. I'm in that mode, so just go with
That's
it.
how it should be. Like, don't ever apologize. First lesson, don't ever apologize for being yourself. Don't ever apologize for just allowing yourself to express who you are, and don't ever stop being who you are because it's not normal with someone else. Fuck them.
Yeah, welcome. Yes, I love that. I'm here for it. Okay, so with that, we're gonna get to know you, and we're gonna ask some rapid fire questions. Go with your first mind. Don't overthink it.
No,
And
I
for
am
those
a recovering overthinker, so I will state that. So anyone who hears this, you will hear yourself in it, and it's okay. But just accept, allow yourself, and move past.
Yes, I love this. Well, and I love that you said that because like the point of this exercise that I do, I mean, yes, it's for the audience to get to know you, but what people don't realize when I'm doing this, I'm telling you guys all my secrets. When I do this is like I'm getting us back into play, back into child mode.
Yeah,
And I feel like in our childhood state, we were the most pure, we were the most fun, we're the most
100%.
open. So that is the point of this exercise. So
Ready? Let's go. I'm clicking the Nickelodeon buzzer. I don't want any slime, but I'm ready.
Okay, and if you're listening and you want a chance to win a gift that helps you unlock more playfulness in your life, complete the questionnaire that's in the show notes, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win something fun
No,
and
you want to win
childlike.
it.
Yeah. So, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I feel like fast running, because my idea was like, well, instead of paying for flights, could I travel fastly, swiftly across the world while walking really fast?
See, we're right here.
I've never said that before, but I was like, that sounds smart.
Yeah, I told somebody the other day I was like teleporting because then I could pop up. When people are thinking about me, I'm just gonna pop up on you. So
Yeah,
we're here with the like
I'm in.
travel.
I'm in.
Yeah, just pop up on folks. What is one childish thing you still do to this day?
So for me, I would say it's funny that it automatically goes back to soothing. All of my childhood things, like because of the way that I grew up, it automatically moves back to either like super laughable things or soothing. And so for me, like something I still do is I play with my ears. because it's very soothing for me. Or like I play with different fingers and I'll just sit there and like start to soothe myself, which I did not realize until later years, into like Chinese medicine, right? That like that is actually you soothing your nervous system and soothing your like different parts of your history. But I didn't know that for a really long time. But that is like a childish thing, I guess, that I like constantly come back to.
I didn't know that because like I'll touch my I really like I try not to because I end up with stuff on my
Yeah,
face, but I
yeah.
like touch my like this my right side of my cheek a lot, or like I'll do like my chin thing and I catch myself doing it and I'm like, you're gonna get all this stuff on your face again. But yeah, I
They
didn't know
say
that's
this
the
is the
thing.
past. Your life belongs to the
Oh, bypassed. Go away. I love that. Okay. So this is a juicy episode. Hold on to your wigs, your weaves, your purses, you know, get your notepad because it's
Sit
gonna be.
down.
So, are you willing to give yourself what you want from everyone else? This is higher law when it comes to like accountability, and so this is a higher law conversation today, and you know, we'll give you some lower law principles, obviously, to like get you into the higher law thinking as well. But you know, try to hang with us and we're gonna take you on some twists and some turns. And some of our guests have been doing a really great job of being tough love, so I don't have to all the time. And I appreciate you all for that. So I feel like with Elyse, you're definitely gonna get some tough love. So hold on, get a piece of paper and a pen. Don't go. We're gonna do it all today. Okay. So when we prepared for this, we talked about your story, Elyse, and some of the mindsets that you had to kind of break through around what people told you about you. So let's kind of start there, and then I can, you know, chime in with some of my own similar stories, and we'll take us down a road. So why don't you take it away?
It's so true. You do see me like start to
We're like
my
soothing
ear, right?
ourselves
I'm
now.
like, oh shit. I'm like, we're doing this. So let me start off by saying, you know, some of the things that I will tell you, they may trigger you. They may pull you into a feeling tone of like, oh, you know, yeah, I remember when this was said to me and I remember why this hurt me. But let me challenge everyone to be able to pull themselves out of what they're thinking about and be able to see it from like up above, right? From perspective rather than being in it. And I will tell the story mostly related to how I felt about it because I believe in tough love, but I believe more in telling my tough story rather than telling other people what to do. Because I don't like it when other people tell me what to do. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. And don't worry, I've done it. I've learned that lesson. I've learned telling other people what to do. And when they tell me to F myself and I'm like, but I'm just trying to help you, I've learned to maybe not push other people in a direction they don't want to go, right? You can lead a
Yeah.
horse to water, but you can't make them drink. My partner says that to me all the time.
Yeah, well, and the best way to do tough love is by like examples. And when people
Example.
identify themselves in your story, it's you,
100%.
if you feel it and you hurt from it and you feel a little called out, that's because you're in it. So just kind of sit in that and embrace that.
And let me give you a secret. If you see something in someone else, this might hurt. It's because it's in you too.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this with my mom a lot. I do this with people in my life a lot that like, I'm like, oh, you know what? That person's always late. And I'm like, oh, okay, Elyse, like, what about you sometimes is late? What about you makes that come up in you? So what it is that we are talking about in terms of what people have said to me. Now, I am a sibling. So I have an older brother who was older than me. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs, are entrepreneurs. And something that I grew up with a lot was like, well, at least like you're a girl, like just be a girl. And in my head, right, a girl meant like, oh, okay, like you have to look nice all the time. You have to be like dressed a certain way. You have to do this, right? But you were never allowed to like have a seat at the table, be in business, do any of the things, right, that the boys did. And so
Mm-hmm.
something that I was also told a lot was like, be a nice girl, or why are you crying? Don't be emotional. And I think a lot of girls resonate with this of like, you know, being told a certain thing or not to be a certain way, which also led me to write my second book, Nice Girls Don't, because I was always told like, nice girls don't do this, nice girls don't do that, nice girls don't, you know, wear small clothing, they don't complain, they don't say things to other people. But something that I told you is that, you know, people can say whatever they want about you, and whether you are a influencer, whether you have millions of dollars, whether you're a billionaire, whether or not you have your own clothing line, whatever it is, people still feel. They may not show it to you, but for me, one of the things that always really hit me was like being called a whore or being called like a certain name, right? That you were like, like, why would someone think that about me? And even if you know it's not true,
Yeah.
it's still that feeling inside of you of like feeling like you need to show everyone else that that's not you. And let me tell you, like, that hurt me. That shit used to get inside of me and like pull me apart. And the biggest thing that I've learned from that lesson is that here's the thing: the more that you grow, the more that you get uncomfortable, the more that you put yourself outside of the box that you currently live in order to be something more, in order to get something more, in order to make more money, you have to find a way to get comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling of someone talking about you. Because no matter what you're doing in life, if you're doing something, there's always going to be someone else behind the door to say something that's going to bother you. Whether they're going to be a keyboard warrior, right? And they're going to say it online, or whether or not they're going to be someone who says it to your face. And trust me, there are people who I thought were my friends. There are people who I thought were my family. And it's normally family members or very close friends that you remember, that when you become successful or fulfilled or your version of those things, that when you start to climb that ladder of like, okay, you know, I'm making more money, I'm doing better things, I'm giving back to the community, those are the things that when people say the same things that you remember, that's normally what triggers you either into a spiral, drinking, drugs, situational, but that's normally what pushes you to that point. And something that I've told you is that, you know, when you hear something long enough and someone says something long enough, you start to believe them. This is
Yes.
something that I have experienced in my life so much. And I love my parents. Let me just clarify that. I love my parents. They did the best that they possibly could. I'm super grateful to have them. They, like their parents, treated them a certain way. So they unknowingly also treated us a certain way. And no, they didn't do it on purpose. But I was the generation that was going to learn because I refused to have the same thing happen to my kids and my kids' kids and my kids' kids. And so when you start to hear something a long time, like you're stupid, which I have heard for many years, or you're not good enough, which I've heard for many years. And those are like deep wounds, right? That you hear when you're a kid and you're like, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I'm stupid, or oh, I'll never achieve this. Then you genuinely start to think that you can't achieve it. And
Yeah.
I don't think that that's fair, but I also think that, are you going to be the person who holds you back, or are you going to allow everyone else to hold you back for the next 30, 40 years because you decided to listen to them?
That's juicy. You know, so there's a book. My audience is so tired of me saying it, and I don't care because y'all gonna get this. But it's a book called The Courage to Be Disliked, and it talks about Alderian psychology and like, what if your past just didn't matter and you just chose that you're going to be different. But the thing that really gets me in that book is about what's the goal in believing these things? Is the goal like for you to like hide, or is the goal that you really think that you're like, you know, what is the real goal behind
Yeah.
you not moving forward because of your past or your trauma and stuff, you know? And so I find this to be really juicy of like starting to remove or like move through the things that people have said about you. Now, how did you kind of get to a point? Like, what okay, I want like again, mindset wise and
Yeah.
you know, more of like the practical
Actionable.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did
Okay.
you do to start moving through? Because like I was telling you when we prepared, like I had been
Yeah.
through similar where I had never had self-esteem issues until I was married and then went through this like kind of crazy marriage separation, and it was just messy. And I had to like really evaluate some of the things because I didn't realize how much I had taken on, because again, if someone says something long enough, you start to believe them. And I didn't realize I had believed some of the doctrines that came from this person. So like, how did you fix your mindset, adjust your mindset, and then what steps did you take to really start moving out of that space?
Yeah. Take a deep breath, you guys, because this is a big one.
Mm.
So for me, I had to fail a lot. I had to go through some shit. And I started to ask myself early on, does everybody who goes through growth, like, do we all have to experience some shady ass shit in our life? Or is there a possibility that we can actually learn and not have to experience pain? Because what I realized was is that the way that I started to learn and actually shift was through pain. Because the more pain that I experienced in my life, the more I was willing to shift. Because you have to be in so much pain to where you're actually unwilling to sit there any longer than to do something different, right? Because we're so uncomfortable to do something different that doing something different is painful. But the moment that you can get to that pain of being unbearable the other way, you're actually willing to shift. So you asked me 2 questions. What is it that I did mindset wise? And what is it that I did actionably? Now, I'm going to tell you guys really honestly and really vulnerable. I tried to do this shit so many different ways. I tried to go over it. I tried to go under it. I tried to fucking lock that shit in the closet. I was like, no, that shit didn't happen to me. What are you talking about? I tried to like disassociate so hard. And then I realized sitting on the ground again in my house, crying my eyes out and banging my hands on the ground and saying, okay, we're here again.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do now? And it took me probably 12 times of that shit in a row. And I would not want to be honest about that, but I think it's truly important to share that because I think everyone who sees like the shift, right? The Hollywood like change in someone, they're like, oh, that shit happened overnight. No, it did not. It took 10 years. And a lot of people's 10 years like life story, you don't end up seeing, right? Until it gets noticeable or until it like everything happens on the inside before it happens on the outside, right? Just like clothing, just like emotions, just like everything else. And so for me, I had to go through that amount of pain of emotional abuse, of a physical abusive relationship, of trying to figure out how to deal with my trauma alone. Not very helpful, not very healthy. Also being in a relationship where I was just like, oh my God, like I love everyone. I love this person. I love this person. What do you mean you don't love me back? What do you mean you don't want to be with me? What do you mean you can't figure it out? And then literally COVID, right? And all of those things. And I felt like I had gone from like step 1 to step 10 to step 10 to step 0. Like I felt like it was just like going forward, going backward, going forward, going backward. And so finally in that moment, I was like, okay, you know what? I was like, I joined a program called Mind Valley. And it is an app that really has supported me because I joined the community as well. And so for me, there's like 4 steps. Number 1, you got to be fucking honest with yourself. You have to be so brutally honest with yourself about where you're actually at, not where you want to go, not where you think you are, but where you're actually at. Because if you cannot see where you start, you cannot jump, you cannot make steps, you cannot make tiny steps, and you can't ever get to where you want to go. So you have to be brutally honest about where you are. Number 1.
Can I add something to that too?
Yeah.
When you're in that brutally honest moment, take the emotions out of it and put facts in it. Because when we start writing down like, oh, I'm here because of this, like it's usually something that we've created in our head, a story. So like just I'm here. Forget the emotion. This is just honesty.
Yeah. And it's the stories we tell ourselves. I'm really glad that you brought that up because the stories we tell ourselves are literally why we are where we are. Whatever story you decide to make up to tell yourself is exactly why whatever your position is accurate. And you're right. Not judging yourself for those moments of being honest is going to be the hardest part because you're going to want to be angry at yourself. You're going to want to hold contempt. You're going to want to be vengeful. You're going to want to hold resentment. You have to allow yourself to see yourself in that moment above you and say, okay, you know what? I'm here. Doesn't matter why you're there. It doesn't matter how you got there. It just matters of where you start. And instead of being mad at where you start, remember that you can see where you start because you can see where you can go.
Yeah.
And if you think you're all the way over here, but you're actually here, then you're going to feel like you're behind and you're going to feel like you didn't move. And so it's really important to be honest and compassionate with yourself when you're being honest with yourself. So that's step number 1. Okay. Step number 2 is willingness. You have to be so willing to get so uncomfortable and so awkward about the fact that you've been doing the same thing over and over and over. And I was always told that doing the same thing over and over and over made you literally insane. Like that was the definition of insanity. And so I was like, okay, then you have to be willing to do something different, which means different than anything you've ever tried, right?
Yeah.
Ever. Number 3, you have to have people around you who support those new habits and that new version of you. Because I could tell you, environment and people are everything. And if you do not have that around you, you will fail. You will fail within a week, a month, or a year, because that uncomfortableness will get so uncomfortable that you will want to find a way to get comfortable. And I'll tell you that normally it's in like within the first week and a half that you start to make a shift. Someone will come back into your life. Some ex-boyfriend will text you. Some parent will tell you something salty. Someone will tell you that you're shit. Like something will happen to where you're going to have to like move through it and be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, they said that to me and I'm going to keep going.
It's so true. I witnessed it this week. Like I started doing this new thing And then like, I was like, okay, boundary block, because we're not doing that anymore. Like this new Thea,
The universe will always bring you things to where you need to make a decision on how you want to respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you respond with, oh, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, I said this thing, but I'm gonna do this thing. The universe only listens to actions. It
Mm-hmm.
only listens to what you're willing to put in front of it. And every time that you do something different, you prove to yourself that you are confident. You prove to yourself that you are capable. You prove to yourself that you can do something different than who you started with you being.
Mm-hmm.
So the fourth step is consistency
Mm-hmm.
and being able to sit in that uncomfortableness and be consistent. And here's the thing about consistency, and I'll be vulnerable. The amount of times that I've been inconsistent in my life are probably more than the amount of times that I am years alive. And I'm turning 30 this year. And I think it's really important to share that consistency is one of those things you just have to keep coming back. You have to choose to keep coming back, because here's the thing. As much as I'm telling you all of these four steps, like, let's go, let's take it, let's go after it, there will be something to come up in your life that will force you to ask yourself, how much do you want it? How much do you want it? How much do you want to be different? Someone will get sick, something will get uncomfortable, someone will tell you that you're an asshole, whatever it is, something in your life will shift that you will need to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I share this with you to say, because you asked for mindset and actionable pieces, those are the actionable pieces. In terms of the mindset piece, here's the real deal, like no bullshit. When it comes to really changing pieces of yourself, those four steps will get you to where you want to go. But I think it's really important to be honest about one thing, which is the fact that you need to be honest about how you feel about yourself.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because if you don't, doesn't matter how many affirmations you give yourself, doesn't matter what you want to change. If you feel that way about yourself and then you tell yourself, oh, well, I'm just not going to listen to people, nothing's going to change. And so you
Yeah.
asked me how I changed it. I had to acknowledge that I also felt that way about myself, of what everyone else was saying to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I needed to sit down and I needed to look myself in the mirror, like eye to eye, and I needed to ask myself, why did I feel that way?
Yeah.
And when I cried, and when I sat there and I acknowledged those painful memories that gave me that experience, I had to do one thing, which is acknowledge that I am the only one who gets to decide how I feel about myself. And then you literally turn on the light switch and you don't go back, because everyone can say, oh, I did this thing and I sat down and I like whatever. No, you made the decision that you were no longer going to care what someone else was going to say about you. And things still happen. I still care. I still cry when someone says something about me. Someone called me fat the other day and I like got upset. So it still happens. But I think the acknowledgement of like, okay, how do you shift? You really do just, you make the decision like a light bulb and you don't go back.
Yeah. That's so true. And like you said, you're still gonna have moments where you have to check back in and like really, it's not you make the switch, you make the decision. The decision is
Yeah.
finite. You do that and
Yeah.
you've made the decision. But working yourself through the pitfalls that we will encounter as humans towards the decision that we made is going to be ongoing until it's just habit to talk to yourself differently, habit to think about yourself differently.
Do you know about automatic response? Have you talked to your listeners about it?
I don't think I've heard about it. What's that?
So anyone who has trauma, anyone who's experienced, pain, anyone who's had those moments of whether it's questioning themselves or questioning someone else, right, or feeling unsafe or any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of us, whether it's like tiny experiences, right, or experiences as we were growing up or abandonment issues like I have, I learned through my last coach and through my last nervous system experience that your body will always have an automatic response.
Oh, I see.
It
Okay.
will immediately go to that. And if you get mad at whatever your automatic response is, you're just going to be angry at yourself. And it took me a while actually to like each experience that happened that I would go back to my automatic response. It took me probably like 40 times in order to feel the automatic response, and then before I said something or before I took an action to do something different.
Okay.
And
That makes
so
sense.
it's the automatic response that we have to allow, not fight against, allow, and then shift.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may never get rid of that automatic response.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah, like your default settings. I never heard of it categorized in that way, but yes, there is like it's like our trigger or our fight or flight that kicks in, or we're like, okay, like this is how I normally respond. In speaking, you'll hear people tell you to like take 3 seconds and pause,
Yeah.
and you count to yourself quietly. Sometimes that's what I've had to do to kind of like work myself
Mhm.
out of the automatic response of like, okay, calm down. It's all right. Okay, now shift the behavior. Talk to myself immediately and move through it. Yeah.
And something that I've had to talk to my clients about, and I'm sure you said it, but you may not have even realized that you said it. A lot of clients and a lot of people don't really acknowledge what it feels like to be in a state of play, a state of sitting, a state of active, and a state of activated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're always activated, then why would you have any idea what it feels like to be unactivated? So something that I do with my clients, like I guess a play, if you will, is I sit there and I sit with them and I breathe with them, right? And we do exercises and I allow what they feel like at base setting. And
Mm-hmm.
if at base setting they feel uncomfortable as fuck, then we discover that and we continue through that. Because I'll be honest, like I'll compare it to my life in my relationships, whether it's been emotional or whether it's been relationship with my parents or friends. I had never had like a stable feeling in those relationships. And so when I finally did, right, I had to like balance my nervous system and my acknowledgement that like, holy shit, I've actually not been not in fight or flight for 10 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I finally got out of it, I actually craved it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So, okay, Tony Robbins has something called the six basic human needs.
Oh
And
yeah.
there's like variety, certainty,
Yep.
uncertainty, all kinds of things on there. But I always like to kind of talk about the uncertainty because sometimes,
Yeah.
when we like we might crave some of that adventure and that like variety, but we've only received that in the form of traumatic experiences of like highs
Yeah.
and lows of people and just not safe and stable relationships. We'll find these safe and stable relationships, attract them, but then repel them because we're trying to create this chaos that we thrive off of in said relationships, and in ourselves. So, ooh, Elyse. I
And
was like, what
for
does like feeling stable feel like? Like it's
great question.
so
It's different
cagey.
for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it can make you cagey if you've never gotten to that point. Now you're there and you're like,
And just like with anything, just like we're talking about, you
mhm,
have to feel it. You
yeah.
can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. I'm talking about that like we're getting on the Disney ride and we know it's going to drop and we're getting prepared that it's going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to feel through it and you have to allow yourself to feel through it. And I'll be honest, like I remember one of my first nervous system sessions. Oh, was I uncomfortable? My whole body was just in like massive resistance. And she would ask me a question, and I would be like, you know what? Like, can we talk about something else? Like, could we like pot? And she'd be like, so can you tell me about an experience of when you were like 5 years old, about when your dad told you that you weren't capable of something? And I was like, immediately my whole body like tensed. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, okay. She was like, and now what? And I was like, what do you mean, and now what? I was like, and now I'm hyperventilating, and now I can't breathe. I was like, and now I don't want to do this. And she was like, and now what? And she literally had to like walk me through what it was like to experience and live through a panic attack instead of just having a panic attack. And
Mm.
this is something that I think not a lot of people realize is like the thing you're most afraid of experiencing that feeling, the thing you want most is actually on the other side.
It's so true.
Because everything that's uncomfortable and new, the first time I ever got on a stage the first time I ever was handed a microphone, the first time I ever got into a loving relationship, the first time I ever told myself I love myself, the first time that I started to talk to my parents again and acknowledge that they're human too, and that, you know, we gotta figure some shit out. The first time I started to realize that I wanted to open my own business. All of these things brought on those same feelings, brought on those same uncomfortabilities, and I had to live through them. Even just this past week, there's been some uncomfortable shit. And don't get me wrong, I was like, okay, at least listen to your training, make sure you like get through it, right? And then I felt myself wanting to like run away, and my partner was like, yo, sit the fuck down, deal with your shit, get in your uncomfortable place. You tell everybody else to get uncomfortable, now you get uncomfortable. You have to have people around you who also will put you back in the place that you need to be in order to continue to succeed. You are the balance of whatever the people's balances of the money is around you. Also, their emotions, their happiness, their joy, everything else.
Yeah, honestly, the friendships that I have now, like we have just grown so much. When I look back at us like a year ago, I actually just had a friend anniversary with my best friend, and it's been a year now. And just the growth, even from like last week, even yesterday to today, it's just like that's like the kind of people when you know like you're constantly willing to evolve and improve together, and they're willing to like hold you to your shit too, because we always need reminders. This work is not one and done. It is a constant decision, constant choice, you know?
And something that we were talking about of like link to pleasure and money, right? Is that at the end of the day, the people that you surround yourself with, you will become them, right? I've had to let go of a lot of people around me in my life, and it's been incredibly painful throughout the last like 6 or 7 years. I've let go of probably 4 or 5 best friends. I've let go of people, and I think back to, I don't know if you know who Lisa Nichols is, but if you don't, you better look that
I
shit
love
up.
her.
For those of you who don't know. Lisa Nichols always says, you have to get through the door by yourself. And then you can turn around and pick everyone else and bring them on your back. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't succeed, move forward, or get past the uncomfortable is because I was raised and I grew up to be the savior, to be the person who wanted to save everyone. And if I was going to save myself, then I was going to hate myself for not saving everyone else. And so bringing that back to the link between pleasure and money, if I wasn't happy, right? If everyone else wasn't happy around me, then I felt like I couldn't be happy. So then I held myself back in terms of my finances, in terms of my joy, because people around me weren't happy. And so then I held myself back, right? But the link of pleasure and money is when you're in joy, you make more money. When you're in happiness, everyone else around you, yeah, they may not be happy, but they will be happy for you if they want for you what you want, right? And so that link is actually so close that when I am in a bad mood or I'm in pain or I'm like whatever, I get no clients. I have nothing around me that goes well financially. But when I'm having fun, when I'm in play, just like she's been talking about this whole time, I do so well and I make the most amount of money because that is truly, right, your state of rest, your state of play, like we've been talking about.
Oh, I really like that you said that because, you know, sometimes some of us don't even know what our own energy feels like outside of being around people. And so, like, even though I have my like close group of friends, I still have my times to myself. Like, I travel by myself and sometimes we travel together, but I mostly travel by myself because I want to know how my energy feels in a place or feels about an activity or feels about a thing. And some people don't even know
You
what
ever
their
afraid to
energy
be
feels like.
alone?
Be alone.
I used to be afraid to be alone.
I have to think about that. I feel like I might be more of the opposite where I'm almost too comfortable being alone. So like
Ah,
sometimes because okay, being a recovering people pleaser, sometimes it's very exhausting, you know, when you're a people pleaser to be around folks because you're hyper vigilant about every little like move they make or differences in their personality or their tone or they're not being the same way with you as they were with you. You know, I was the type of child I grew up in environments where like I didn't know who I was getting. So I was like, is it Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde sometimes in certain scenarios a lot. And so I would always kind of like modify my behavior to like try to get a specific result. And it was just exhausting. So being alone is actually a lot easier. But now that I've like started like advocating for myself in more ways or continuing to maintain my attitude regardless of whatever, like you feeling down doesn't mean I'm not empathetic with someone, but I don't let my energy like go down with them and be like sad and depressed with them. I'm here for you. I stand in the gap with you. I hold space for you, but I am not you. I am me and I have my own energy and I have my own things going on. and I can still be there for you, but just not so involved, so empathetic that it weighs on me throughout the whole like day, week, year,
Oh, I know. And I have lived that track like a vinyl record my whole life. And so I would love for you to share that story with me that you were sharing earlier about the records.
Yeah, so I had this manager, and she and I got really close a while. This was a long time ago, and this is kind of around the time I was going through my separation. And oh my gosh, so she said to me, she was like, what if you met someone and they loved everything about you that your husband like complains about now? And I was like, I never really like thought of it like that. She was like, I know that you feel like you're not taking on everything that he's saying about you. However, what happens is the way that like vinyl records are created is they create grooves and marks and press it with heat in order to produce that sound. And so if you're around somebody long enough, they're going to dig into you, and then you start to reverberate a sound of low self-esteem, a sound of self-loathing, a sound of like lack of confidence, which is really what the other person actually has. So they start putting their things onto you, and even though you're not consciously accepting that, subconsciously you're hearing it enough and you start to take it on. And then I was like, where's this self-doubt coming from, and where is these things coming from? And that was honestly, I wouldn't do it again, but I mean, marriage I would, but not not that person. But like that really was like a template for everything else, because then when I was kind of out of that and noticing how I would feel around certain people, like there were some people that would come and see me and wouldn't tell me that, and I don't even know if they were consciously aware of that, but they would come and see me and be around me for my energy and then go away, and I'd be like, why do I feel insecure today? Why do I feel like I didn't have a protection around my own aura and my own energy, and I was like, why am I this is not, this is odd. I was like, who was I around today? Common denominators. Okay. Put some more protection, some more boundaries around your aura and your energy. And so, yeah, she told me that. She was like, you're not taking it on, but you are. I was like,
And just like you're
hmm.
saying, there's going to be many of your listeners and many of mine who are not aware, right? Because awareness really is the first step of what's going on. And I'll share. I was not aware that after I moved out of my dad's house when I was a kid, that because he wasn't around being the way that he was, and again, I love my parents, I'm super grateful for them, but they had that training as well, that just because he wasn't doing it, then I would add other people in my life who were doing it so that I felt comfortable being in that space. And then when they were gone, I would have a relationship like that. And then when the relationship was gone, I'd have a friend like that. And when the friend was gone, then I'd have someone I worked with like that. And then finally, after like 10 years, I was like, you know what? I don't think I could do this anymore. I don't think I could have even someone in my life be like this.
Girl, that was my stepdad. And like socioeconomically, like culturally, like on paper, he and my ex-husband were very, different, like background wise. But when you look at the behaviors were exactly like the same, I remember getting my first training bra and being so excited, and I was in the mirror, not because I had boobs and I want to show off boobs, because you don't have boobs when you get a training bra.
Yeah.
Nobody has boobs when they get a training bra. But he was like, you don't have anything, get out the mirror. I was just like, hmm, hmm, that's a weird comment, but as an adult now, like that's a strange comment to a child, but it was just similar, like boilerplate, like templated,
Okay.
Ooh, Elyse.
Juicy. It's always juicy. This
It
is the
is.
thing, is when you're willing to be honest about your own life and share it through a lens of like, this is my experience. I think there's so much that can come through it. And I am always someone who, like, I get on a podcast episode and someone's like, can you come back? Like we didn't have, like, we've already done an hour.
We
Yeah.
have.
And yet, right,
Yeah.
there's so much more that can come out. And so what else do you want to give our beautiful, gentle readers before we are done?
Well, I think we should do the affirmation. We should do the vibes be vibing
Oh,
segment.
yeah.
Like
Give me
we
the
do.
deck. Give me the
I was
deck.
like, oh dang, we didn't even do the segment. So, okay, this is the portion of the show where we leave you with your collective card for a week. And it comes from the 44 affirmation cards to activate your inner diosa. Diosa is goddess in Spanish. And this is the Wisdom del Alma deck, and it's by Christine Gutierrez. So, Elyse, I'm going to have you pick a hand, left or right.
Ooh, okay. It's gonna sound weird, but I need you to pick your left hand, three cards down.
That's fair. Okay. Do you want it to be the third card or you want it to be the fourth card after 3 cards down?
Third card.
Okay. I'm glad you did. This was a good one. I love this deck. Okay. So I am the motherfucking prize. Okay.
Ooh.
And then the back says, I always have the power to claim what I want in my life. I no longer settle for breadcrumbs.
Oh my God,
that was good, Elyse.
I used to say that all the time. That was my quote to myself, is like, I loved breadcrumbs. I was willing to go with the guy who was like, oh, I like you, but I don't love you. I would live with someone, right? But like, it wasn't enough. Like, I was the breadcrumb fucking girl. And then I was like, you know what? I want the whole fucking cake.
Yes.
My whole life changed.
All the courses, all the dessert. Come on. Okay, Elyse. Okay. And then this week's song is from the Goddesshood Affirmations playlist, and it's called Treat Me Like I Treat Me by Chloe Bailey. And we picked it because of the lyrics. Treat me like I treat me, love me like I love me, completely and deeply. Exceptional. You know, anything less is unacceptable. Don't get me wrong, I'm flexible, but only in all the ways my legs can go. That means if it's pleasing to me, I will do it. Okay. I love it. Any final words for the audience before we wrap up to the outro?
Are you happy? It's such a simple question and such a valuable answer, because there are moments in your life that I'm sure you are. But how do you find the maximum capacity of the joy that is inside of you? Because there's something that you're meant to be doing that you're not doing. And there's a person that you're meant to be being, and there's a way that you can get there, that you can live to your fullest potential. But something is stopping you and something is making you hide. And I think we all have things that we hold so deeply inside of us that we know that we were always meant to do, or that we were always meant to be. And that wasn't not there for a reason. You have been given that because you are capable of that. It may not seem so because it may feel like you're far away, but you are exactly where you are supposed to be in the time that you are supposed to be it. So know that you can get there, and know that you are here for a reason, and that you are perfect exactly in any shape and size and any place that you come from. Anyone can do anything. Just look at all the examples in the world.
I love that. Sitting on the fence is much more painful than making a decision.
And it is the hardest part to make the decision.
It is. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Goddesshood with Thea and Elyse. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and head to the show notes for some goodies. And remember to live, love, laugh, and exist on freaking purpose. Go live. Bye.
I wanna hear your voice. You should say all of the things you wanna say. You can be her right here today.